She'll definitely hit a
Last company. But he was in, this is what I've.
Okay, since it is now 6 p.m., I will now call the Boquet Valley Central School District's Board of Education Budget Meeting to order. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. District's vision, as a reminder to all of why we are here. The vision of the Boquet Valley Central School District is to become the best rural school in New York State. We will accomplish our vision by providing exceptional opportunities to all learners and preparing them to set and reach their future goals by embedding our core values into their student experience. Roll call. Mrs. Belzile, would you please take the roll call?
Tom Broderick.
Here.
Paige Potter Saltimont.
Here.
Paul Fenton.
Here.
Darlene Hooper.
Here.
Sarah Coleman. Deb Spalding. Jason Welch.
Here.
Sadie Burgess. Here.
Okay, attendees, if you haven't done so already, would you please sign in so we have an accurate attendance record? The sign-in sheet is located on the table by the entrance. Thank you for your cooperation. Library proposition discussion, Elizabethtown, Westport, and Wadham's Free Library Association. We're very happy to have Amy McKinley here tonight, who represents the Wadham's Free Library Association. She's going to provide us with some information regarding the proposed funding proposition. Welcome, Mrs. McKinley.
Thank you so much. I don't need to stand, do I?
Your
Okay,
choice,
thank you.
just project.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're here, so there's representatives from all three libraries of the district. And we are asking to have this proposition put on a ballot at the time of the school budget vote, May 19th. And I'm going to read the proposition, pretty short. Shall the Board of Education of the Boquet Valley Central School District, as pursuant to Education Law 259, be authorized to levy and collect an increase of $15,000 in library funding separate from the school budget. This increase of $15,000 will be divided equally among the Elizabethtown Library Association, the Westport Library Association, and the Wadham's Free Library Association to support library services. If approved, the total annual library appropriation will increase from $40,500 to $55,500 and will remain at that level unless changed by a future vote of district residents. So if this passes, $55,500, what it would look like on people's tax bills would be approximately $7 per 100,000 assessed value. So that's the new amount. And I guess, why are we doing this and why are we doing it now? We've talked about doing this for a while, and it always seems like, oh, this may not be a good year for this reason or that reason. And then we realize it's never a good year to ask for more money, and especially now, when everybody's facing rising costs, but so are the libraries. And we just decided we really need to do this. The Westport and Wadham libraries first received library tax money in 2004. And we have not asked for an increase since that year. The Elizabethtown Library first received the library tax in 2018, and they have not asked for an increase since 2018. So we are hoping that, the residents of the district value library services and will support this. And we would be very grateful and thankful to have you put it on the ballot.
Okay, thank you. Anyone have any questions?
Yeah, I have one. How many of our students would you say you come to the library on a monthly basis? You have a figure of that?
Which library? Is that?
Well, each one of you, each one.
Well, we have, I can speak for, do you want to speak for one of the library? Since you're at the library and sit there and bring people?
Yeah, I don't have a count with students, and the other thing is that anybody in the district can use any libraries,
Right.
any of the libraries, and they actually do. So we have people, right now, we don't have a lot of medium-sized kids in libraries because of the houses are owned by older people, which is true of a number of our communities. In Newtown, they have a lot of kids, but we have some younger ones. But we have kids that come in regularly and do use the library, yeah. Especially the little ones at this point. Our children's room is pretty comfy and we have a lot of good books, so, you know, people come and use it.
And we also have like a game night now, twice a month.
I'm sorry?
Devin, and kids come. I was so amazed. There were, I don't know, 4 or 5 kids there. The first night.
The Westport Library started a weekly movie series that's for all ages and families. So we often get children to come to those.
Those events would probably be really great, if you pass them on to Bridget, she can put them in the newsletter for everyone to enjoy.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do have someone
Okay,
that, yep.
Good, I'm not sure if it is you, sorry.
Hillary passes on, yes.
Okay.
She passes on a lot.
I can speak for the Elizabethtown Library, and Karen Robler, the director of the Elizabethtown Library. We provide tutoring 3 days a week. We have one student that comes Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays when we're open and does her homework. We also provide books to the Boquet Valley Central School. In fact, your librarian, Kristen just got a book from our library. So we do support the school itself. And we're not asking money for salaries because we're all way underpaid and there's nobody that could do our jobs and live on our salaries. We're looking to expand our services. We also have 6 or 7 computers that are very active. And they're open to anybody. You don't have to have a library card.
Perhaps we could have some of that
Ellen?
information. Oh, I'm sorry.
Annie, could you tell us what other services Westport and Wadham's supplies? I know you do like, Wednesday nights or Tuesday nights.
Yeah, well, we do Wednesday nights in Wadham's, which is a lecture series in the fall and in the spring. We are doing game night, we are doing a fiber arts gathering, we host book groups.
Boquet River Association meets there, and other groups meet there sometimes too.
And I also know you also do fundraisers too, so you're not relying
yeah.
upon.
Yeah, so the tax levy is, it varies for each library. The part that we get is maybe 20% of our budget.
It's less than 20%, yeah, we raise by activities or an appeal letter, and some grants, we raise most of our budget. We don't receive, none of our libraries receive very much in the way of cash or money from the New York State. People think, oh, well, the state supports the libraries, but it's a very minimal amount that we get from the state. So we raise almost all the money ourselves with events.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say, perhaps we could put some of that information on our website. For example, the tutoring, I think that would be good for parents to know, because I don't believe there's anything out there letting parents know that the tutoring is available. And also I had a question, now is that all 3 libraries have like an interlibrary loan so that the teachers can access
Yes.
books?
It's
Okay.
through 3 counties.
Pardon?
It's from Clinton, Essex, Franklin counties.
Okay,
Yeah, each library is independent. There are 30 libraries in Clinton, Essex, Franklin library system. Each independent, but we all work together with the help of the system and we interlibrary loan books and.
make sure that they get what they need, right? Wonderful.
And I would just add that we would, as we get closer to May 19th, we will have some informational flyers and posters to distribute, and we'll be at the budget hearing night if people have questions.
They will be informational flyers and posters. We're not allowed to tell voters how to vote.
Right. Well, thank you very much. We will not be voting on this tonight, but I'm assuming that it will be on the March agenda. Okay, and it's definitely a worthwhile cause.
May I just
Have
add
to
one
vote on it.
thing?
Yes, go ahead.
Elizabethtown Library is hosting a community forum on Saturday from 2 to 3 p.m. It's led by J.J. Murnane from Plattsburgh. And each library is having one of these forums. And the community, we want the community to come in, talk about the community.
Okay, great. And we'll just make sure that that's on our
Yeah.
notes. Okay, so people will know about it. Any other questions?
So, we know that the law is that this will go on the ballot if we request it. And I think the board accepts it. Is that, okay?
Right.
You don't vote
Resolution.
on it. You
Right,
just
but it's a
accept it.
resolution, yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
But we won't make the resolution until next meeting.
Right.
That's
Okay.
the point.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions? Thank you very much.
Okay,
We
thank you for
really
the
appreciate
time.
it.
I know it's a busy time,
Yes.
but work is hard.
Thank you.
We'll just do that.
Okay, next we're moving on. Dr. Meyer, would you like to lead the discussion for the budget? Okay, number 7.
Yes,
Our 2026-27 budget.
yes, thank you. Would you mind taking one and passing one down? Okay, so our budget meeting, I know at our regular meeting in January, I did give a little teaser of some budget information, but this is technically our first formal budget meeting. Today we'll take an overview, look at the budget, talk about the tax cap, look at the executive budget proposal, the foundation aid, and I'll look at our revenues, expenditure projections for next year, and some of the budget highlights. So that's on the agenda for tonight. So as far as questions go, feel free to stop me and ask questions as I go, or you can wait until the end of the slide or the end of the presentation, whatever works best for the board is fine with me. So the budget overview. So this current fiscal year, our budget's right around $16.2 million. And this is in, all school budgets are in 3 main areas. They're the capital, administrative, and programming. Capital, that's typically facilities and maintenance type work. Administrative, that's leadership and operations. All of anything related to the board comes out of administrative, for example. And then programming, that's of course the instruction, student services, all of that end of things. So those are the 3 main areas, and we'll see things broken out in those 3 areas as we continue with our budget discussions. The expenses, right, that's what the district spends. And the revenue, that's the money coming in. Our funding sources are 3 funding sources. We have state aid, we have federal aid, and we have local taxes. The reason that is circled there is that's what we're talking about. We have very little input on state aid, very little input on federal aid, but we, as a school district, can talk about the local share of the taxes. And of course, we need a balanced budget. The expenses and the revenue, those must match. The budget vote is May 19th, and that is sort of the overview of the process. So let's talk about the tax cap. So the tax cap, there's a big formula down here on the right corner. I'm going to blow that up on the next slide for you. But basically, the point of that formula is just simply so you can see that there's a lot of numbers that are going into that formula. Often not so much anymore, but when this first came out, people often talked about this 2% tax cap. And that, I don't believe that there has ever been a school district in the state where after running the formula, it actually came out to be exactly 2%. 2% is simply one of the numbers that goes into the formula. Two numbers that do change every year. The tax-based growth factor, for us, this is 1.0039%. And just as you can imagine, when you multiply anything by 1.0039, it's not going to do a lot to change that number. So that's a very low number for us this year. And then the adjusted growth factor of 2%. You have three options as a school board. We can go below the tax cap, at the tax cap, or exceeding the tax cap. I fundamentally believe that we always go with the tax cap, and that's what all the preparations that you'll see this year are leading up to. So this is the formula, blown up a little bit. The thing that I want to point out here is this number right here, this 1.02, that allowable levy growth factor. That's the 2% that we talk about. That's it. So there's all these other numbers that are going in to this formula. So when you work all of that out, you end up with the final number. So again, like I said, it's very unlikely that it's going to actually equal 2%. So our tax cap projection for this year, based on that formula, is 4.24%. That is the at the cap number. In the upcoming slides, we'll see how we get there. The increase, that is an increase of $363,237 to the levy. If you look at our history, going back to 2020, 2021, that was a 4.15. 0.98, 2.28, 3.08, 2.57, and a 3.06. What you should notice here is that none of those are equal to exactly 2. And they change every year, and it's just based on how all of those numbers fit into that formula.
Were all those, okay, those are actual tax caps. Sorry, those weren't understood. Thanks.
So the other thing to understand is our budget timeline. So during the school year, we're really looking at a 3-year process. And what I mean by that is, so right now, let's talk about the March 31st date. So our teachers for next year are completing their requests or the requisitions, getting those numbers to their principals, and they load them into this, to a program we have that's very similar to Amazon, specifically for educators. It's on state contract. It's, the lowest price out there is a system called EdData. In any case, they load those in. Those need to be in by March 31st. Although as I'm looking, I feel like we just agreed to extend that deadline slightly as I'm looking at one for you. Yeah.
That first Friday.
Yeah, so I think we extended it by about a week, but in any case, end of March, beginning of April, the teachers get their spending requests in for the following year. By August 31st, the admins and the athletic spending, all that needs to go in there. Of course, a lot of times those numbers are change a little bit based on hiring and what happened over the summer, positions that need to be replaced or potentially attrition that took place. So a little bit more time for the administrators, being August 31st. Then by December 31st, we really try to stop all spending in the district. Over the course of the fall, certainly things happen. New teachers were hired, for example. We might need to purchase a few things, or some of the items that were approved. We try to get all those purchases completed by December 31st. Doesn't always happen, but that's our target. Then by February 28th, that's when we ensure that all the spending requests have been absolutely completed. That's like our absolute stop date. So really anything purchased for this school year from here forward would either be the result of some emergency, something that was just unexpected, or if it was related to a grant. Grants work a little bit differently, right? So any of the purchases that you see moving forward were either like pre-planned, to happen, or something unexpected happen to have them happen after the end of February. So then, starting in March, then our business officials looking at our fund balance projection for the end of the year. And then most of our grants are on that July 1st to June 30th deadline. So then the grant spending is completed June 30th. And then, of course, as I mentioned, the emergencies. So we're always looking at multiple years of budgeting at one particular time. So what does the timeline look like in New York State? So in January, the executive budget was released. We're going to go through that in a minute here. We are expecting a legislative budget. Those have come out as early as late February, and as late as, middle, end of March. Hard to say when it's going to happen. And again, we don't really have any input on when that comes out, but the sooner the better. And then the idea is that once the legislative budget comes out, then their leaders meet with the executive. It's the governor's office and her team, and they have an agreed on-time budget by April 1st. Governor Cuomo was pretty adamant that April 1st was the deadline that all budgets would be approved on April 1st. And while a couple of years he missed the target, for the most part, he hit it. That has not always been the case. So we do what we can with the numbers that we have, and because our timelines don't change even if the state doesn't have an on-time budget for us. Okay, so again, I know these numbers are very small. You have one of these in front of you, and I'm going to blow it up on the next slide. So there are two things here. There's the item on the left, this set of numbers up here, and again, you don't need to see any of these. I'm just demonstrating this for you. This was our current school year, the 25-26 school year. Below is the 26-27 school year. This is how we get our information from the state. As you can imagine, getting it on top, one on top of the other is not a great way to look at that information. So the Council of School Superintendents provides one of the best services of the year, where they put those side by side for us. And that's what you have in front of you. So there are a couple of these numbers here. This is that spreadsheet blown up just a little bit. If you look at these numbers, and if you see the arrows that I have on the right of these numbers, and the pink box that I have looking specifically at the change. So there's a dollar amount change and there's a percent change. So for foundation aid in the executive proposal, there's an increase of foundation aid for us of 1%. Okay. As a reminder, we are on Save Harmless based on our enrollment that goes back to the early 2000s. So for us to get off of Save Harmless, we would need to literally double our enrollment. So that is not something that I expect to have happen. The other thing, and this is later in the presentation, but nearly 2/3 of the district, I think it is actually 66% of districts in the state this year are on Save Harmless. What that means is that they do not follow the foundation aid formula any longer. They get this 1%. Just as someone who's been doing this for 8 years, if 66% of the districts aren't on a particular formula, perhaps there's a problem with the formula. So, in any case, so we get our 1%. This 1% is higher than we've gotten in some years. Some years it's been flat. All that Save Harmless does is it ensures we will at least get what we got the year before. So it guarantees a 0%. It guarantees you won't lose money from the year before. So, you look at 1% and you can say, well, only 1%, but I always think that's 1% more than I thought we were going to get. So you look at the dollar amount, that's $49,363. Okay, so that's what we're looking at. Then as you make your way down this slide, and if you have questions about any of the other numbers, I'm happy to address those, but the ones with the arrows, those, I just wanted to point some of those out. The numbers with parentheses around those are basically negative numbers. We're getting less. So you'll notice the transportation aid, The summer transportation is a separate line, which is why it says transportation without summer. So we're getting about $9,000 less. The third arrow, the operating reorganization incentive aid, this is what we know, right? That we are going into year 9, we're in year 8 right now. We're in year 8 of the merger right now. Question mark. We're in year 7 right now, going into
Yeah, I
year
was
8.
gonna say.
Yeah, going into year 8. So moving forward, we'll get $65,784 a year less each year moving forward. And we know that was the plan all along. And so that's that merger aid, but we are still getting $460,000 in merger aid. Continuing down to arrow number 4, that's our BOCES aid, up slightly, $28,000. The public excess cost high cost aid. This is where, depending on whether you're looking at the percentages or the dollar amount, and you look at that and say 400% increase, that's amazing. Well, it's $12,000, right? So, great.
Why did that go up so much?
I really don't know.
Okay.
That would be a question that, Hayden wasn't able to make it tonight, but that's a Hayden question. I would never dream of putting Melissa on the spot, but if there's anything that she wanted to weigh in on tonight, you're welcome to weigh in on.
I am still learning this whole process, so I'll let him answer that. So down to arrow number 6. So the universal pre-kindergarten, one of the reasons I always like to talk about this is that this is based solely on enrollment, okay? So the state will allow us to have more students than, not that we even have room for, but that live in the district.
Mhm.
So that always looks like it's going to be this massive increase, and that would be great, an extra $75,000, that would be great. But we need to fill those seats, which we have yet to have. We have 2 classrooms, which is awesome, but we've yet to fill our pre-K seats, which is, this is one of the big complaints across the state, is that it always looks like you're getting more aid, but you really don't, because you can't fill the seats, and so it's not really money that's there for
Is
you.
the UPK, that covers preschool and pre-K? Like the younger group and then the older group?
The 3 and the 4-year-olds.
Okay,
Yes.
it does,
Yep.
okay.
We also have a partnership with ACAP that is, I'm gonna say unique. At least at the time that it was set up, it was the only partnership quite like that in the state, and I believe that is still the case, where the way that it works, we're able to use some of our funding, ACAP gets similar funding. So we're almost, I hate to say double dipping, but almost has that feel where we're able to sort of combine our resources and use that for our pre-K program. So it's been a great partnership. Okay, so then when you get down to the bottom, the total aid, so again, so it looks like there's a 1.5% increase with $102,000. But because of what I just said about the pre-K, you'll notice the next line is the total excluding the universal pre-K, because that can be such a deceiving number across the state. So if you pull the pre-K number out of it, it's really only a 0.4% increase to our state aid, only about $27,000 increase to state aid. Questions on this chart before we move on?
Can I ask you, what percentage of our incentive aid, merger incentive aid, is used in the budget?
0. I'm gonna say $0, and the reason I say that is, if you look at, so we're over here, so like this current school year, $526,000, right? So we have already this fiscal year put more than $526,000 in our reserves. So that's why, and that is true for
every previous year of the merger.
Is that what you're gonna do with the next budget for next year as well?
So that would absolutely be my recommendation moving forward, is to continue to do that. I think that, you know, one of the best things that could happen so the merger rate is always says that it's lasts 15 years, okay? That is slightly not true. It lasts 14 years. The way the schedule works, in year 15, it's your last reduction, meaning that you go from $64,000 down to zero in your 15th year.
Right.
So I don't think you get funded over 15 years, I think you get funded over 14 years.
Right.
In any case.
So every year in the past, we've put in 100% of our incentive aid into a reserve.
Yeah, yes, however, you know, the dollars that come in from the merger aid, those aren't like specially marked dollars, you know what I mean? We're putting more in our reserves every year than we've gotten from the merger aid. I think I said that correctly.
So it's on the revenue side, and then on our expenditures, we have this $1 million excess, and that's what's put in. So it doesn't look like it goes from incentive aid into the reserve. It's kind of calculated based on the revenues and expenditures. Does that make sense?
But if someone were to argue, well, how do you know you didn't spend the merger aid and you're putting the foundation in?
Right.
No, I realize it's
Yeah.
revenue,
Yeah.
it's revenue. But I'm saying, I was just wondering, like, down the road, we're not gonna be getting that incentive.
Right, so even already, the total amount of merger aid was roughly $6 million, right? We have already put $6 million, since we merged, put $6 million into our reserves. So I would say that, based on efficiencies and based on, for a lot of reasons, we've already funded the reserves for the full amount of the merger incentive aid, and we will continue.
At basically 50% of your timeline.
Continue to do that. But in fairness, that was the plan, that was the goal, right? Was to not spend that money right away. And while I want to be careful how I say this, but we were a little bit lucky that COVID happened when it did, because we had that additional revenue coming in for all the COVID money, and we were able to stock a lot of that away as well, because we were, again, operating more efficiently. So all of that kind of happened at the same time. So I think that that's probably the single best thing that we've done as a district from a financial perspective, is stocking the reserves, the merger money and that COVID money. And that's based on how we've been able to operate more efficiently since merging.
I do have an answer for you on the high cost aid.
Okay.
He said it's because of a chapter 66 placement student. He said a special ed student was out of district and placed in our district, so we got 100% reimbursement on the student.
Okay, thank you.
That's the two from Keysville or Plattsburgh?
No, so that's likely like a residential placement, so a student that's placed outside the district in like a residential facility.
We probably did, I had a question on that. Transportation aid, we probably don't know how the state calculates that, I'm assuming, right? Just seems odd that would have been, it's not a lot, it's less than $10,000, but seems odd that they would reduce that given inflation and, I don't know if they have analysts that looked at gas price indexes and thought it was gonna go down this coming year. Maybe that's what drove it, but it doesn't feel like the transportation costs are gonna come down.
Yeah, I would speculate, agreeing with what you're saying, I would speculate that we've driven less miles, or that we're projected to drive less miles this year
That makes sense.
than the year before. So we're getting less aid because of the fewer miles that we drove, but 100% speculating on that.
but there's no part of that transportation aid that's for electric buses.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so just looking at our BOCES region, so if you look at the districts that are on Save Harmless in the left-hand column, the 1% state minimum, we had 2 more districts join us this year. One was Northeastern, and I don't recall the other one was, but we had 2 more join us this year. If you look at the districts that are not on Save Harmless, that's the percentage they are getting in foundation aid. So Beacontown 4.6, Plattsburgh 8.7, Saranac 1.4, Mariah 3.6. So that means that their enrollment has increased since 2000. I want to say it's 04. I want to say 2004 is the year that that's based on. I might be off by a year or two, but it's the early 2000s. Looking at this, I would be willing to bet that Saranac is going to join us next year on that list. Usually once they get, around that number, they join us the following year. So not a lot of districts left. And like I said, 2/3 of the districts in the state. So I don't know what's going to happen with this, but it gets talked about fixing the formula. So we'll see what that happens. Again, I know you can't see this, but you have it in front of you, and I have each section blown up on the upcoming slides for you, but the top part is the local share, the middle section is the state aid, and the bottom part is kind of the other. So if we look at the top part first, this talks about the real property taxes. So the tax levy this year for the upcoming budget year is $8,909,741. You see how we get some other smaller amounts here, 12,000 here. We get some interest based on some of our reserves and some of our other money, just interest on that of a little over $100,000. And then we do get some donations throughout the year, and we still are collecting stumpage for $30,000. This next section here, the state aid section. So this is some of the numbers that you just saw. You should recognize some of those numbers, and I did not bring my binoculars and was expecting that to be a little bigger, so.
Can I just go back to
Yep.
that? What is stumpage?
Yeah, I didn't see.
Yeah, so it literally is for cutting down trees on some property, and it's not ever like a ton of money, but we get a check for stumpage every once in a while, and we say, thank you very much. And
Okay,
I'm happy to spend that.
okay. All right.
Okay, so then looking here, so you see the foundation aid, and sort of the 2 columns highlighted with that green rectangle there. That is comparing this current fiscal year, 25-26, to the executive budget proposal, 26-27. So you can see some of those numbers side by side, but you saw many of these on the last slide. Just sort of a different view here, but that total state aid is in the bottom right corner, $6,613,747. And then the final section down there, again, looking at some of the incentive aid. The only number there that's the merger aid, the reorganization incentive aid. And you see the change, $65,000 less. And that gives the whole total for the budget at $16,360,975. So that's how we get to that revenue, the total revenue number. So then that brings us to expenditures. Any question on revenues before we move on? And you can certainly ask them when we're done.
Now, we haven't talked about our fund balances yet, right? I mean, $6,000 on our audit, or $6 million on our audit that was said was too much to be into that fund. Where does that go?
Yep, so a huge chunk of that went in October, when, I know we were at Lakeview campus, must have been October. In October, you moved a bunch of that money, it's about $1.3 million, you moved into reserves. And a big chunk of that was from that fund balance.
Okay.
Yeah,
And on the sale of property up in Plattsburgh, what did we receive back on the investment that the school sent up there?
The
Oh, the
BOCES.
The
BOCES property?
BOCES situation.
yeah.
And where's that located at now?
So that would come in on that would come in on one of the BOCES lines, I believe. Do you know, can you ask Hayden that? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we
Melissa-
can just get it
Melissa-
for the next meeting, that's what
Yeah.
I'd like to know. I mean, that's gotta be
Okay.
a pretty good chunk, the way everybody was talking about it.
Yes,
And that could be in the,
I mean,
yes, that we're gonna get money back, but it's divided by 16 districts.
Right,
Based on the size, so it's gonna be some money for sure, but,
So are we going to make sure that our fund balance stays within that 4%?
so I would, if we can have that conversation when Hayden's here, I would prefer that. I know the biggest reservation that Hayden has with keeping it under 4% has to do with the summer months, because the last bit of money that the school district has coming in, I believe is in March, is the last check that we get. And we don't get another one until taxes are collected in November. And having to cover payroll over the summer, our 12-month employees, believe it or not, they want paychecks over the summer. I find it to be just ridiculous, but they demand we pay them over the summer. I'm of course being facetious. But so I know that's one of his biggest concerns, is being able to cover payroll for that entire time. However, many small districts, like Putnam, for example, being the smallest, their 4%, they keep that at about 100%. Their numbers are, so the smaller you are, the bigger that number tends to be. And I believe that as a result of, before the merger, Westport and Elizabethtown had their numbers in the neighborhood of 10 to 12%. I don't think that, so because we're a little bit bigger now, it does not need to be 10 to 12%. And that's what we talked about in October. And that's why we got it down. I believe right now we're in the 7 to 8% range. And I am comfortable moving that anywhere the board would like it to be, as long as we can pay our bills.
Well, I just thought, I remember Dr. Timms
Yeah.
recommending, because we've been cited on that year after year.
Yes,
For not keeping within that 4%
yeah,
level.
right,
And maybe taking that extra money and putting it into a reserve ahead of time, rather than waiting until the end of the year and having that much excessive money in our
and
fund balance.
yes, and so whenever that happens, whenever we get that report from the auditor, we do need to update our plan on how we're going to address that. And based on the conversations last year, so this year is the first year we've done a mid-year transfer. And that was one of the, it basically was after the taxes came in and, we kind of got through the summer, we realized what was left, then we were able to move some money from there. But I understand, absolutely understand, and would welcome the conversation when Hayden's here. I just would hate to miss anything that he would be concerned about.
so our reserves are not mentioned here anywhere, correct?
No, so the fund balance and reserves will be talked about at the March meeting.
Okay,
So, yeah, so those aren't part of tonight's presentation.
okay, all right.
And you can withdraw from those reserves anytime you want.
No,
No, time sensitive.
That's one of the dangers of putting.
Yeah,
into
time
reserves.
sensitive.
so some of the reserve,
Require,
generally speaking, every reserve has its own set of rules. Some of them require voter approval, public voter approval to remove the money. Some require board approval to remove the money. And some
let me stop there. I think that's it. I think you would at least need board approval to pull out from any reserve. So it's not just as simple as.
Yeah.
Right, it's not going to the
It
bank.
needs to be a
and
very
taking it out.
thoughtful
Yeah.
decision to put into the reserve.
And
Because sometimes you can kind of get locked up there until you repurpose a reserve, which also sometimes may even require a vote. I don't know about.
yeah, so we, let's capital reserve, for example. So there was a, Westport and Elizabethtown had a capital reserve. Every reserve, when you set it up, you have put a limit on how much money can go into the reserve, but then there's also an expiration date. And again, every reserve has a limit on what that can be. I feel like I usually see 10 to 15 years for reserves, but I'm sure there are different numbers. So if we set up a 10-year capital reserve, so when Westport and Elizabethtown, as their capital reserves were expiring, there was a public vote to move that money into a new Boquet Valley Reserve, which is what we have now. We increased the limit on that and extended the expiration date.
So by starting the new
By starting
reserve,
the
you're
reserve.
starting the
Yeah.
time clock over.
Yes, yeah. And in theory, right, you could just keep doing that, but you need voter approval every time to do that. Okay, so let's talk expenditures and then we can certainly continue the questions. Okay, so looking at your expenditures, and you do have this in front of you as well.
It's this, yeah,
Oh, this
It's,
one?
it looks bigger on the screen. for
Yeah,
some
and
reason.
it doesn't.
Yeah.
So in the first column, you have the current school year. And in the second column, you have the proposed budget for next year. And then, of course, the last column is the difference between the two. The red numbers in parentheses, that's a decrease, overall decrease. So our BOCES services, you see there's an increase there in the BOCES services. The debt service, a slight increase in the debt service. The fuel and the buses, again, small increase there. The health insurance, so these numbers were, we took our best guess on what the health insurance rate would be to have this ready for you tonight. We had our health insurance consortium meeting this morning, ended today around 3 o'clock. So that will be updated and be slightly adjusted. We weren't too far off in what we projected, but there will be a small change to that.
On our health insurance, is there an employee contribution or is the district pay for the entire policy?
No, there's employee contribution for everybody, as far as I can't think of anyone that wouldn't have a contribution. Even our, there may be some retirees from a way back that have no contribution,
It's
but.
all contractual, right?
It's all
Contractual, right?
Yeah, it's all contractual.
That's a good question.
Then our FSA, it's a flexible spending account, that, no change there, and our HRA. The HRA, so we're seeing a reduction there of $16,000. Medicare reimbursements, increase health insurance buyout, an increase to our health insurance buyout. The crime liability insurance, slight increase there of $15,000. And then our ERS, that's our employee retirement system contributions, those are up about $12,000. The TRS, the teacher retirement system, is down $22,000. General fund salaries down 271, almost 272,000.
Can I ask, is that because we didn't hire people or because?
Yep, no, good question. So some of that is we had some employees that were the way that they were hired, they're basically being moved to the special ed line for next year.
Oh, instead of a general fund?
Yeah, which is in, if you see the other toward the bottom, some of that is offset by some of that money is moving from there, from one spot to the other.
Okay,
But there is a decrease there, in the salaries based on some of the retirements that we do have.
I was going to say, are there any cases of attrition, elimination of attrition?
So, there's a couple positions that we do believe, we still have room for attrition for, but not that are retiring this fiscal year.
Okay.
Social Security's down, our equipment is down, significantly, that has to do with the bus purchases. Yep.
okay, nope, that's fine.
And then materials and supplies is down, quite a bit as well. So the total expenditures is down, over $100,000.
So the other includes what? Special ed?
So the other, so includes, really two big chunks here. So, the special ed needs, and some of those are, the salaries, as I mentioned. Other is, we're expecting, some out-of-district placements. And then there's
Does that mean that we're sending kids out of district or we're getting kids from out of district in our?
that we are sending,
Okay,
as a result of a CSE meeting.
yeah, no, fine, I
Yeah,
just
yeah.
want to know whether I know what you're talking about.
And the capital outlay, project, so that's a, project. This is, again, this would be great, for Hayden to speak in a little more detail on this, but basically the way a capital outlay project works is it's a small project that can happen in the district, and you do get aid back on that. So for example, if we wanted to, change carpets in some of the room, or, something of that effect, something that's like a little bit of a smaller project, where we've certainly done that, we've had a need to do that in some cases, we pay for that, and that's the end of it. If you do it through a capital outlay project, you can do it and get the aid back the following year. So if you continue, to do those, then they, then the aid offsets the project the following year.
Okay, look, I got one question.
Yep.
I mean, maybe I'm out of line asking this one. Now the elevator needs repair, from what I understand here. Where is that gonna come into play in the new budget? Or hasn't it been able to get bidded out to find out what it would cost for that?
Yeah, so, so that's a good example, right? So that, to fix the elevator capacity that needs to be fixed, we would need to incorporate that as either part of the capital project or a separate project that would absolutely exceed the $100,000
Limit.
capital outlay limit.
And, well, I guess we wait until next month. I know you have some other requests that are coming in that you've talked with your teachers and your staff, and that they want things done. But it'll be one of those things that's under the $100,000 cap. Am I talking out of the wrong side of my mouth here? And this is from your maintenance, service. Mr. Wright had mentioned something about, doing some work, and it was gonna be about $100,000.
Yeah, so that's what he was talking about. So kind of putting a few little projects together to get to this $100,000 number so we can get the aid back on it.
For that capital outlay project?
Yeah, for the
Okay.
capital outlay.
Okay, and I mean, that's just approved by the board. I mean, it's not a vote from the public, it's just those $100,000 jobs are just approved by the board at that case, isn't it?
So, sort of, so it's that, being that it would be part of the budget,
Right, okay,
ultimately it is approved
That's how we're.
by the public, but it's not a separate, like, you don't vote separately on the $100,000 capital outlay, it's just in there. It's
Okay.
just
It's
part
just
of the
part of the
budget.
whole budget.
yeah, okay. All right. And my other question is,
Oh, I'm sorry, can I say one more thing?
yes, sir.
But
Sure.
you have to finish the work during that fiscal year. Like you can't say, well, that's great, it was approved, we're gonna push it off for a couple of years. You have to finish the work. You need to get it done.
And one more question. I see the Ticonderoga bus here. 3 days, I think, a week or somewhere around in that. Can I ask what they're here, and do we get reimbursement for any teaching that
Sure.
they're getting from us, or what?
Sure, so, I believe that the Ticonderoga bus is here for New Visions only, right? Is that the main reason?
Is that what it is? Okay.
So we rent a classroom to BOCES
Okay.
for our New Visions medical program,
Okay.
which is they walk from here to the hospital.
Right.
And it's,
Oh, no, I thought that was always a great plan.
yeah, it's, I know Ticonderoga, Spoon Lake, Keene has students that are here. I'm sure I'm missing some districts, but it's mostly the southern districts that are sending the students here for that New Visions program. Yeah.
Okay. No, thank you. That's all. I didn't know if it'd be something we'd have to add into the budget or. Okay.
Okay, and then I think I have one more. Do I have one more for you? There's
I
a,
think so, sir.
yeah, okay, great. So then the last sheet I have for you is sort of what I would consider to be the kind of the highlights thus far in the planning process. So again, looking at that increase in the BOCES service, so 97,000 of that is in the CV type budget is due to additional pre-CTE students. And that's based on an increased 5-year average there. We also have an increase in $70,000 to accommodate the new CTE center. So if you remember, so that $70,000, that was the public vote, right? There was a public vote for that new facility in Plattsburgh.
Mhm.
So that's where a lot of that money comes from, the $70,000. The reason here, these are Hayden's notes that you'll see here. So for example, the fuel prices, we're hoping that those remain stable. We're on a state, no longer on a bid, but on the state contract that usually does help with keeping those numbers a little bit more stable. And especially with some of those, what's happening recently, stability in that market is pretty important. And then if you look at, you see a couple of his notes that they do say tentative, and we're just waiting on some a little bit more information before we can finalize those, but those are the estimates that we're working with right now. Any questions on that overall before?
Can you pass on to them? I really appreciate this slide that summarizes the reasons for the changes year over year. I think it's kind of answered some of the questions I had
Yeah.
earlier.
Just a couple more slides for you. So again, that 1% increase in foundation aid, more than 60% of schools in your state receive that minimum. No real significant increases to any of the other aids. We know that merger aid's dropping, and that funding stops in 2033, 2034. We talked about pre-K being deceiving. The electric school buses, so I do, without, it's hard for me to talk about electric school buses without just really committing to that rabbit hole, but I'm gonna do my best here and just say this, that it does appear that there is some movement from both sides of the aisle on this, and we are hopeful that they will push it back. I think that just about everyone is agreeing that this is probably a great initiative, right? This is probably great for the environment, probably all these wonderful things, but no one can figure out how to pay for it. And that's like a today problem. So I'm hoping that there's going to be some movement on that. I'm hoping that there's going to be I'll stop there. I'm hoping that there's going to be some
And we'll have
movement.
enough energy to support it,
Yes,
right?
all of those things. Again, budget vote May 19th. And this is the TRS and ERS, so teacher retirement system, again, down to 8.24% from, it was at 9.59%. ERS is up 17.6% from 16.5. Those are the estimated increases and decreases based on the information that we have at this time. And then our budget priorities, our student opportunities and experiences are actually, let me say this, we were not expecting this. The OASIS grant was announced, and it is due mid-April to submit. So
Wow.
that is very exciting. We still need to write the grant, get approved for the grant and all those things, but simply the fact that it came out and it is a very quick turnaround, but we are going to, you know, that's one of the things that we're gonna
Jump
like
on.
drop everything and get that done.
Did other school districts in the area get that grant as well?
Peru did so they're on the same cycle that we're on, and
So
they use their
just
money
us and
very
Peru?
differently.
In the whole, wow, okay.
Yeah, Beekman has something that's similar, but structured very differently than ours is. But the same type
Mhm.
of grant. So student opportunities and experiences, so very, very hopeful that can work out for us again. Just tremendous benefits for everybody. Academic programming and support, the transportation and the buses, you know, certainly we'll continue to talk about those. And then our maintenance equipment as well. We'll get some more information on those as we move forward with next month. So what we'll see in the upcoming months, so we'll certainly get an update from the legislative side of things, revenues and expenditure update. If there's any update to the property tax cap, fund balance projection update. If there's any BOCES budget update now that health insurance is finalized, those numbers should be really final next month when you see them. We'll just go with Hayden here, we'll confirm the debt service numbers. I noticed that I put fund balance projections on here twice, just to make sure for Mr. Fenton that I don't forget those. Sorry, I don't know why that's on there twice. And then the reserve report update. So that's what you can expect to see in March there. Yes.
Sorry, the BOCES.
Yep.
When will we have to start paying that? I mean, when, this is for the new building up in
Yeah,
Mine.
July 1st.
July 1st.
July 1st.
And what are we paying? How much? That's already incorporated into the
Yeah,
budget.
so, yep. And that's where that increase was about $167,000 more next year, total of 2.7 million. I mean, so the BOCES line always looks expensive, and it is. However, the value for the BOCES dollars is incredible. It's incredible value. And then on top of that, we get aid back the following year on top of that. So it's a big number when you look at budgeting, but I think it's money well spent.
And the good thing is they always get good publicity in the paper about what BOCES does.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
and that's excellent, I feel, you know.
I think a lot of people support, majority of the people support it.
Yeah.
Well, it enhances all of our programming in the whole
Oh, yeah,
area,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Nobody opts out of it.
Say it again.
Nobody opts out of it.
Oh, that's a good question.
Do they?
I don't think anyone opts out of BOCES. I mean, there are certainly districts that have more of a partnership. As you can imagine, you know, the smaller school districts tend to rely a little bit more on the BOCES because the bigger districts can do a little bit more in-house. They just have more resources. But no one opts out. Yeah.
Now, I have something I'd like to, I have some thoughts that I would like to share regarding this year's budget formation process. And I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer, but these are things that are very concerning to me. And this is based on the information that I gleaned recently from our financial advisor, Dr. Rick Timms, who recently presented a presentation entitled The Long-Term Financial Analysis of the Boquet Valley School District. As a recently merged rural district, we have benefited greatly from our state merger incentive funds. Those funds have allowed us to enhance programs and operations through these transitional years and put a substantial amount of money into our reserve accounts. However, those funds are decreasing with each passing year and will be gone entirely in 7 short years. At the same time, our enrollment has been steadily declining while our expenses continue to increase. That combination raises serious long-term sustainability concerns. And as Dr. Rick Timms recently advised us during his long-term financial analysis of the Boquet Valley School District, the difference between our revenue and expenditures keeps getting greater with each passing year. I was actually hoping that he would be here tonight for tonight's meeting so he could explain this in more depth, but hopefully he will be coming to one of our meetings in the future. The question before us is not just how to balance next year's budget. The real question is whether our current structure is sustainable once our incentive funds expire. Dr. Timms provided us with concrete examples of options that we should be considering. Have any of these recommendations been implemented? And most importantly, the one question I think we really need to ask and our district really needs to consider is this: if we do nothing different structurally, as far as consolidating into one building, or internally through the thoughtful consideration of ways to reduce expenditures, what year will we be facing a financial crisis? As Dr. Timms indicated during his presentation, it is not that far away. I believe that it is our responsibility to address this proactively, not reactively. Our goal must be long-term stability so that our students, staff, and families can rely on consistent programming and will be able to avoid crisis-driven decisions in the future. I believe, based on the information provided by Dr. Timms, who is a leading expert on public school finance and education funding policy in New York State, we need to formulate a multi-year sustainable plan that aligns staffing, programming, facilities, and enrollment trends. And we need to begin that work now, not wait until there's a financial crisis. Are we doing any of the recommendations that Dr. Tim recommended?
Yeah, that's so great. I'm glad you brought that up. So the information that we received from Dr. Timms, and especially the recommendations, those were general to all districts. If you go on the Osceola Valley website that has his presentation posted on their website, it is the same recommendations for that district as it is for ours. Those are the recommendations. It's general in nature, but let's talk about those. So he says to stay at or very near the tax cap. We have done that. To rebuild and maintain our reserves over time. Our reserves are, if you compare our total reserves to our total budget, we have that is the highest ratio in the region and one of the highest in the state. He says to reduce the resilience on appropriated fund balance to balance the budget. This was a common practice happening nearly every year in Westport and Elizabethtown before we merged. This happens in districts across the state. We have never done this at Boquet Valley. We have never used fund balance to balance our budgets. We've never needed to. And you talk about decreasing the year-over-year spending. So if you look at our expenditures for next year, those are $105,000 less than they are this current year. Again, we're reducing those because we have those plans. We have the transportation plans. We have the bus purchase plans. We have the curriculum plans. We have that in place. So we are reducing spending at a higher rate than we are, I don't want to say losing money through incentive aid, right? We're getting $65,000 less. We're reducing spending by $105,000. That's significantly more reduction. And I still plan to put money or to recommend that we put money into reserves next year. So the one piece that I will stand right next to Dr. Timms and agree with him that we have no idea what is going to happen with the state funding. Are we going to get 0% next year? Are we going to get 1% next year? Or are we going to get 3% next year? We have no idea what the legislative budget's going to come out. Legislative has never come out with less than the executive has come out, but that doesn't mean that couldn't happen. It's an election year. I would be shocked if that happened this year, but it couldn't. So we don't know that.
I think that that's criminal, that school districts don't get some advance notice. I don't know why they can't plan that, a few years out, but, they haven't let me run the state and solve that problem yet, but maybe one of these days. So I have no idea how to anticipate what the state is gonna do other than plan for 0%. And that's really what we've been doing. We plan that we're getting a 0% year after year. And if we do get the 1% or 2%, or a couple of years ago, we got 3%, which is incredible. Then what we've done with that money every year is put that extra directly into reserves. We have not spent that money. I would say that most boards of education and superintendents across the state, if they had the opportunity to trade financial situations with us, they would do it in a heartbeat. We are in an incredibly strong financial situation. That being said, do we need to get into one building? Absolutely. I tried pretty hard to make that happen. And it didn't, and that's fine. And we have another capital project that we're looking at. And if that can get everyone to one building, then that's great. I absolutely agree that we need to get into one building. That is when we can be the most efficient. But we have been losing positions through attrition since we merged. We have a handful of positions that we can still lose, but that's one of the things that, one of the, I'm gonna say, promises that we made before we merged, and I think is so important, is we cannot cut these positions outside of attrition. It just isn't fair to these teachers to do that.
We agreed upon
Yeah,
that before we merged.
Right, and so,
Attrition would be the way.
yes, and so when those opportunities come up, then we can do that, and of
Or
course,
resignations.
yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so when we get onto one campus, I believe there will be more opportunities for that, where we can look to do those things. But we have absolutely been, I guess I will say this way, that this current year, we have put more in reserves this year than we have any year previously to that. That's because we are operating more efficiently this year than we have in previous years. So I hear what Dr. Timms is saying. I think very highly of Dr. Timms. Anytime he presents around here, I typically go. That's why I invited him in, so you could hear what he had to say. But his big concern is from the New York State side of things. And we need to control what we can control, and I believe that we are doing that. I think that we have these long-range plans in place. I think that we should absolutely, we can bring some of those back up. We can talk about more formal, here's what our reserve plan has basically been at this point, is when we find that we have extra money, let's dump it into reserves. And we've been hitting the capital reserve very hard in anticipation of this capital project. We can absolutely look at a more formalized plan that is something other than dump money into the capital reserve. I absolutely.
Well, there were other plans that you
Yeah.
talked about as well,
Yeah.
that maybe that would be something that we'd all like to see.
Well, he is coming. You've invited him.
Oh, I don't even mean Dr.
Oh.
Timms. I mean,
Like
the
Buster
capital,
was saying in the
like you're
bucket.
saying, the reserve plan, or I don't know if you said an educational plan, but you said like 3 different plans before. But the other thing is, are we considering any other revenue streams? Like, I think that's Dr. Timms's ultimate point, is like, what do we do if the state drops out from under us?
If it drops out for everybody.
Right, oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
we're
certainly
not-
not just
right,
us, but,
Well, if we do get into one building, then we would have the other building for sale.
Right.
well, yes, but like, I'm thinking more long-term as far as like, the electric buses keep coming up in my mind, and I know that hopefully that all pushes down the road, but eventually the road will end.
It's gonna catch up with us.
And, do we talk solar now, or other revenue streams that could help us along those lines? And, I don't want to say and electric buses, but like, what other revenue streams can we
Well, my
add
point
to the situation.
I was trying to get across is we need to look long-term.
Mhm.
I don't think we need to look just for
What
this
do we
year.
make on a percent on our revenue? What's
Like
maybe
increase,
2%?
interest are saying, yeah, that, I think that what number was up there. But yeah, I'm gonna say like 2%-ish. I do think that.
And what does that equal in dollar bills?
I think I had it up there.
You did, it was one of the line items on revenue. It's like, it was pretty good for what we have in our balance.
Yeah, it ranges from there, like 45,000, down to 33,000.
Depending on the reserve.
Depending on those,
And yeah, we've had months that were,
That's monthly?
that's per month.
Okay.
That's per month.
Yeah, correct.
And we can maintain that with,
Yeah,
so we're doing all right. If we can maintain that expenditure equaling or less than our income on it.
yeah, but so here, right, if you look at it this way, that, then I don't know if you can see this on your sheet, that, I mean, I can see that 6.6 million. That's what we get from the state, right? That's the concern, that if that money like starts to significantly decrease, then I don't think we have any like great answers for that. I would also like to think like that 6.6 million, if that were to go away, I cannot imagine that is going away at once. I think that is a slow, a steady decline. I think it is manageable. I would hope that if the state is going to, if the state ever did something like that it would be part of a long-term plan from the state's perspective that the districts could plan out. You know, you look at that COVID year, when Cuomo said that, you know, he's slashing a huge percent, I forget what it was now, like 20% from the budget, and then federal dollars came in to supplement that. So there was effectively a 0% change for districts. But like that, I mean, we had a plan. We had a plan for that. It was a terrible plan, you know, we were cutting so many things, but we had a plan. We had like 10 different options on how we were presenting that to the board for their consideration. And thankfully, that lasted for about 2 weeks. And then, you know, then the federal money came in and we didn't have to do that. So yeah, I do think that, I do think when, you know, when we merged, there were excess bodies from, but that's what happens when you merge. And I think we've done a very nice job through attrition to cut that down. And, you know, one of the things that I would hate to get into, and some districts have tried this, is, you know, could someone make the argument, well, hey, you know, Zoe's here, so let's pick on Zoe. That we don't need 2 sixth grade teachers. We could probably get by with 1.7 sixth grade teachers and have the least senior teacher, you know. I would have the hardest time presenting a plan like that. Once you start having less than full-time employees, it is a revolving door. They get hired and they're looking for a job the next day. So we look to attrition the full positions when we can, or perhaps find ways to share those with other districts. These are all things that you know, conversations we've been having. There is a huge conversation happening regionally about regionalization and how can we share these districts. And what's nice for us is that all these other districts are having these very difficult conversations this year about how are they going to cut $2 million out of their budget or $1.5 million, and all these huge numbers. And so they are in need of districts to partner with. And I'm standing there with my hand up saying, how can we do this? And how can you give us a little bit of money to make that happen? But those plans aren't, you know, they haven't yet had the conversations with the board. They haven't yet made the cuts. They don't yet know what their needs are. But we're in a position where I think we could probably help some of these districts and get some revenue in doing that. That doesn't mean, you know, I don't want to say, well, you know, there's 15 available seats in this classroom, let's fill every classroom. That's not necessarily what we're saying. But is there a way to work together to try to make something happen
that can benefit everybody.
Okay.
I think also though, if, with that, the population is being lowered here all the time now. And I mean, even in our onboard report from, the school boards, they're saying people aren't coming to the North Country because of the pay scales. There's not enough pay here
In the housing.
in the housing problems. And, I mean, that's another thing. That's one of the things I was concerned with. I don't want to see this school go. So, you know, I just want to make sure it can stay on track and, you know, do a fine education like it always has.
Yeah, and Mr. Louie's here, so he sends an enrollment report every time there's a change in enrollment in the district. And our enrollment is, it's up this year. You know, if there might be a week where we lose a student or lose a couple students, but we are up this year from previous years. Not a huge amount, not enough where I'm saying we've solved the enrollment problem, but we're up, you know, we're up, and that's, I think that's great.
But we're losing quite a few this year, though, seniors.
Oh, that's a big class.
That's a
Oh.
big class,
That's a big
almost
class.
40.
Sure, yeah, and you know, you get these bubble classes, you know, that come and go, and that's one of them, and yes, I agree with you.
Every time that student population decreases.
But we don't know what preschool, pre-K, kindergarten will look like next year either. I think we probably have a good idea.
Water Street is only probably 8.
Well, typically,
Let's hope
we
that's
have
a big
about
class.
26 coming
Do
in.
we,
Yeah,
that was
and
part
then-
of this.
Well, but so when you look at our contracts at the elementary level, right, we have contractual restrictions on,
Right.
on, you know, what triggers a second classroom, you know, to happen there. And when we get to the high school, that's where, you know, we often have these conversations that, does it make sense to run this particular class with X number of students, whether that's 10 or 5 or 3 or whatever? And sometimes the answer is yes, that absolutely makes sense. And other times the answer is no, probably not. Let's see if there's another way that we can make this work. But that's an example where I think we can maybe get these other districts involved who maybe had to cut their AP teacher, and we can say, hey, we are offering that, come take it with us.
Mhm.
Mrs. Hooper,
Yes,
we only have one person that we should be hearing from, and we haven't heard from her yet. One of our students. If we could ask her,
do you have anything that you'd like to contribute?
Um,
I didn't reach out to her.
Do you have any
I
money
didn't know
you would
whether
like
she
to give to
wanted
the
to talk
school?
about budgets.
well, she's,
Don't feel like you have to. Just if there's
If you have
anything.
any questions, I can answer anything.
Sadie, can I ask you this question? So, talk to us, well, I guess this is not a question, but talk to us about AP classes and college level classes and what you know that you're taking or that your friends are taking and what they're graduating with and how that's going to benefit you moving forward.
That's a good question.
I'm in AP Psych and I'm in AP US History. And they're incredible. And we then have college credit. And I am also in the French bridge course, which also gives us college credit. And it might not fully transfer, but we still get that. And it looks good for colleges. And it's a great opportunity to even have just 2 AP classes rather than none.
great.
Yeah, we have students that are graduating with, 15, 20 college credits. That, you're talking semesters
Yeah.
worth.
Right.
And you talk about the monetary value of
I
that.
was going to say, yeah.
This is the cheapest way to get college credits is in a high school setting, period.
How early can they start taking them?
Tenth
grade.
Yeah.
You don't
Next
have to-
year, you want their college to
Yeah.
be.
I think you can do, is it 8th grade or AP and bridge classes? Is that both?
They're kind of the same thing, basically.
Okay.
But the earliest age I've seen so far is 10th grade, at least this year. It's funny because I actually was working on a big report for that during this whole meeting. So I have most of the AP counts and classes right here in front of me, actually. But yeah, 10th grade is.
Do you have the list, can you just read the list of what we're offering?
Oh, okay, well, we got English 12, AP English Literature, AP US History, Spanish 3, Marketing 1, Public Speaking, Environmental Science, Calculus, Elementary Statistics, AP Government, not to be confused with AP US History, French 3, French 4, French 5, and World Cultures, and AP Psych.
And those are all college level, or, yeah,
Dual credit courses.
yeah, so
That's how I.
Can you
know
give us
it.
the number of students?
It's not totaled, but yeah, I have the list right here,
Okay.
everybody signed up. Just give me like 1 second.
Sure.
So while he's doing that, I'll say this, that pre-merger, Elizabethtown and Westport had some AP classes and had some college level classes. But when you combine those, the list was a fraction of what it is now. This list is amazing. And this is the kind of thing where we are trying to figure out how we can get some of these other districts to take advantage of these, but get some revenue in doing that. Because whether we're talking 5 or 10 or 15, how many years down the road, when there are financial concerns, you look at that list and you say, do we need all these things? It's at least a discussion item. And it would be nice to say, well, they are essentially paying for themselves because we're bringing in these other students.
It's a lot better revenue option, like you said earlier, compared to, say, a 1.5 position or a 1 point whatever position, because it's never 1.5. You're splitting that with another. We experienced that at Westport, right?
Yeah.
You're splitting that talent with another school district, and that person is traveling, and there's a lot of lost time in there for both districts. I'd be really interested in like the AP courses that we offer and that students elect to take. There's always value in any kind of class and learning that stuff, but do we track after they graduate, whether or not those went towards credits at a college that they then enrolled in for their degree, or were some of those just a good class to take that they didn't really get to use afterwards, other than the knowledge.
A lot depends upon the school and a lot depends
Yeah,
upon
right, like, 'cause I heard
what
some
your
stuff.
major is.
Yeah, as an engineering degree person, some of that stuff would not have helped me, but
I never went to college, so I don't know, but wouldn't the language credit significantly help, so you don't have to take like French or
Well,
language? in
I'll
college?
tell you, I had it
Doesn't
when I
that kind of-
graduated. And when I graduated high school from here, I had a semester of college under my belt. When I graduated,
LCS?
yes. I only had one additional credit from a summer program that I did outside of this school. Everything else was here. When I graduated college, I had an extra semester under my belt still. I was able to use one for an elective. It may have been my major, there may have been several factors, but, knowing whether we're using them after graduation or not may be helpful
it might help us to
in
guide
our decision on
the counselors and to kind of guide
going a
those
different
students on,
direction.
hey, this might be an option that you'd want to consider
Mhm.
over this other
Yeah.
AP course.
Yeah, my question was, if you wanted to offer some of these courses to other schools, could you do it through Zoom instead of having them travel to
Yeah.
take a course?
So the short answer is yes, it wouldn't be Zoom, it'd be something similar, but there are legitimate distance learning platforms through NARIC, and that gets very expensive very quickly. But there's also a way to, get like 1 or 2 students at Willsboro, 1 or 2 students at Keene just to jump on. But if you were gonna do it like at scale, where say we had, 50 students joining us from all across the state, we would need to use something like NARIC to make that make sense. But if it was a couple students from our neighboring district, we would figure out how to make that work with the technology that we have.
Yeah, so that might be good. And just charge them a fee. and that would-
Yeah, and that was really weird. So part of our superintendent meetings that we have, monthly, we talk about regionalization as one of our topics every month. And this is really came up today. We were having a conversation on how to make that work. So, yeah, I would be surprised if, 2 or 3 years down the road, we weren't at least doing that in some capacity with some of our neighbors.
Okay, are there any other questions for Dr. Meyer?
We'll write them down.
Okay, anyone in the audience have any questions?
No, nice discussion, very interesting.
Okay, all right, then, number 8, next meeting, okay, we have a regular meeting on Thursday, March 12th at 6 PM at the Lakeview campus. And I believe we have one on the 26th, another budget meeting, and that would be at the Lakeview campus as well. And do I have a motion to adjourn our meeting?
Motion.
Okay, thank you, Paige, and a second.
Second.
Tom, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, motion to adjourn approved. Okay.